welcome to Cubit Education. Today we are going to go through some foundation algebra questions. I thought it'd be a really nice piece of revision, especially because algebra is one of those things that sometimes people just get a bit confused about. So I'm literally going to go through about 15 questions. They start off fairly simple and they get a bit more difficult as we go through. Obviously, with papers like this, they tend to throw odd ones in there. So I'm going to go through each of these. If you'd like to pause the video at any time to have a go at these questions, then obviously please do that, and then I'll be going through the answers. So pause now and then we'll start. Okay, if you've had a go at this, then let's look at the first question. So this one says that Kalim thinks of a number. He multiplies the number by 2 and he then adds 3. His answer is 27. What number did Kalim think of? Okay, so for questions like this, all we need to do is write out a simple expression or equation. So Kalim thinks of a number. We don't know what that number is, so we're going to just write down x. He then multiplies that number by 2, so that means we want 2x. So we wouldn't write down x times 2. I mean, you can if it helps you, but in your actual exam, you need to write down 2x because that means 2 lots of x, 2 times x. Okay, and then he adds 3, so we'll add 3 on the end, and his answer is 27. So let's put that there like that. If you can hear that noise, it's the dog sitting next to me, so I apologise. So you have an equation now, 2x plus 3 equals 27. And what we're going to do is we're going to reverse that to work out what x is. So this one here, 2 times x plus 3. So we're going to go backwards. We're going to do, instead of plus 3, we're going to take away 3. Okay, we're going to take away 3 from both sides of the equation. So 27 take away 3 is 24. So we've got rid of that, and that has turned into 24. Okay, because we've subtracted 3. So 3 take away 3 is 0, so that disappears. And 27 take away 3 is 24. So we're just left with 2x equals 24. Now, obviously, remember this bit here means 2 times x. Okay, so again, we're going to work backwards and we're going to divide by 2 instead. So if we divide that by 2, okay, and that will just give us x on its own. And then if we divide that by 2, it will give us 12. So 24 divided by 2 is 12, and then 2x divided by 2 would leave us just with x, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, so it would be like 1x, so just x will be left on its own. So it's telling us that x equals 12, so that's our answer, 12. Okay? Alright, so what about this next question then? It looks a little bit tricky, but if you've already had a go, that's great. But if not, pause the video and have a go, and then we'll go through it. Okay, so this one says that Emma uses the formula P equals 2A plus B to find the perimeter of this triangle. Find the value of P when A equals 5 and B equals 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this down a bit so we can see the whole question. Okay, and it gives me a bit more space. So when we have a question like this, what we want to do is put the numbers in to this equation here. So we've got P equals 2A plus B. Okay. A is 5. Okay, it says just there. So that means P equals 2 times 5 plus, and then B is 3. So it says plus B there, so we can put plus 3. Now, that gives us an equation where we need to make sure we remember the rules of BIDMAS. Okay, if I write BIDMAS down here. Okay, now B is for brackets, I is for indices, which is anything squared or cubed or anything in a root sign. D is for division. Okay, we have none of those. Next we go on to M, which is multiplication. Okay, so we do have a multiplication in this question. We have 2 times 5, which means we have to do that first. So if we write it all out again, but we'll do the multiplication, 2 times 5 is 10, and then we've got that plus 3 on the end. So we've done our multiplication. And then we have addition, which is our next bit, so that's our final bit to do in this question because we've just got 10 add 3, which is 13. Okay, so P equals 13. We've not got any subtraction in there, so we didn't need to do that. Okay, now If you're a bit unsure on BidMass and if you feel like I'd gone through that a bit too quickly, if you watch the previous video that I posted last week, there'll be a question in there that goes through BidMass in more detail. Or if you search through my videos, you will find a video on BidMass itself. Okay. All right. So if you got that one right, well done. Let's have a look at the next lot of questions. Okay, so here's some nice ones, and these ones you tend to get at the beginning of your paper, and they're worth 1 mark each. So obviously it says 3 there because you've got 3 questions, and usually these are just worth 1 mark each at the beginning of your paper. So if you'd like to pause the video and have a go at this one again, then go ahead and do that now, and then we'll go through them. Okay, so the first one is asking you for 4 squared, or 4 to the power of 2. Now remember, 4 squared means 4 times 4. Doesn't mean 4 times 2. And 4 times 4 is 16. So that one's done nice and easy. Okay. Now, the next one is asking you for the square root of 64. So if you can't remember what that means, it's asking you what number do we times by itself to give you 64. Okay. So if we think 4 times 4, that's 16. 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36, 7 times 7 is 49, and 8 times 8 is 64. So the square root of 64 is 8, because it's 8 times 8 equals 64. Okay? And then the last one in that section, it says 3 times 2 cubed. So that means 3 times, and then I'm just going to change my colour, 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so you could either do that, you could do 3 times 2 and then times it by 2, then times it by 2. Or what I would do, which is a bit easier personally, is you can do the 2 times 2 times 2 first. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so then you are left with 3 times 8. Okay. And then hopefully, because you should all know your multiplication tables at least up to 12, 3 times 8 is 24. Okay, all done. And you get all 3 marks there. Okay, then part B to this question is some negative number. We need to be very careful with negative number. And again, if you're not sure about negative number, go back and watch one of my videos on that. So the first one is minus 2 plus 5. Okay, so try and think of it like if you've got a bank account and you've got no money in it and you took £2 out, you actually owe the bank £2. You're minus £2. But then you go back to the bank and you put £5 in. If you put £5 in, you've paid your debt to the bank, you've paid that £2, but you've also got some money left. Okay, so you could think of that as like your profit once you've put that £5 in and paid your debt. Okay, so if I draw a little number line, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just to be clear. So you're at minus 2 and you're adding in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you've got £3. Okay, or 3. Okay, so let's say it's, you could do another example where it's minus 2 degrees outside, and as it heats up by 5 degrees, you end up at 3 degrees. Okay. Now this next one, it's saying that you've got minus 2, minus 3. Now again, let's say you're overdrawn in your bank and you owe the bank £2. You've been to a shop and you bought something for £2, so you now owe the bank £2, and then you go to another shop and you spend £3. So now you're in debt by 5, minus £5. Okay, because minus 2 minus 3 is like saying, if I did a number line like this, 1 second. Okay, you're at minus 2 and you're taking away a further 3. 1, 2, 3. You're at minus 5. So your answer to that one is minus 5. Again, if you're not entirely sure, and I know I'm going through these fairly quickly, but then you need to go back and watch an entire video on each of these. This is more of a revision, okay? Alright, so let's move on then. Question 3. We can't fit both on, I don't think. So let's just do part A first. Alright. So the cost of hiring a car can be worked out using this rule. The cost is £90 plus £50 per mile. 50 pence per mile. Bill hires a car and drives 80 miles. Work out the cost. Okay? So, what you need to do then, pause the video and have a go, and then I'll go through it. Alright, so let's think. You've got to pay this £90 regardless. Yeah, you've hired the car, you have to pay £90. But then you have to pay 50 pence for every mile you drive. So if you're driving 80 miles, that's 80 lots of 50p. Okay. Now, if you were using a calculator, you would actually put in 80 times 0.5 because 50p is half of a pound, so 0.5. Alright, obviously we don't want to have to use a calculator. So, instead of saying, right, what's 80 times 50? Why don't we let's do 80 times £1. Okay, if we said 80 times £1, that's obviously going to be £80. But we haven't got a pound, we've got half of that. Okay, so 80 times 50 pence, or 0.5, would actually be half of 80, which is 40. Okay, so you can just work it out what it would be if it was a pound and then half it. If it was 25 pence, you could half it again to give you a quarter of, because it's a quarter of a pound. Okay, so basically then what you've got is you've got this £90 that you've got to pay, plus you've got another £40 on top. So 90 plus 40 is £130. Okay, lovely. Okay, I'm going to miss out the next part just because I think there's a mistake in the booklet. It just doesn't give enough information. So let's just scooch past that one. And we're going to go on to one that's a little bit more difficult now. Okay, so this one is asking you to complete the table of values for y equals 2x minus 1. And then you've got to draw the graph. Okay, so what you need to do here is you've got to put in these values where x is. And then it'll give you y. So I'm going to try and do that here where there's some space, and then I'll show you, if I can, on the screen how to draw the graph. Okay, so you've got x is minus 1 first, so your equation is y equals 2x minus 1. So if we put in where x is, each of these values, it will tell us the y value that goes with it. And then we can plot the coordinates. So y equals 2x, which is 2 times minus 1. I'm going to put that in brackets because we have to do that first. And then there's a minus 1 on the end. Okay, so you see we've got minus 1 here and a minus 1 just there. So we don't want to forget one of those. Now then, so that means that 2 times minus 1, that's 2 lots of minus 1, is minus 2. Okay, and then that minus 1 on the end still. So that means you've got minus 2 minus 1. Okay, so remember what I said, that's like saying you owe the bank £2 and now you owe them another £1, which means in total you owe them £3, so it's negative 3. So this one will be negative 3. Okay. Okay, then we're going to put 1 into this equation, so your equation is y equals 2x minus 1. And we're going to put 1 where x is. So y equals 2 times 1, because x is 1 this time, and then you've got your minus 1 on the end. 2 times 1 is 2, and then you've got your minus 1, and that's nice and easy. 2 take away 1 is 1. So that one there will just be 1. And then your last one is 4. So again, we're going to use, we're going to use the same equation. It'll delete for me. Y equals 2x minus 1. And this time we're going to put 4 where x is. Y equals 2 times 4 minus 1. The reason I'm putting them brackets in there is to remind you that you need to do that multiplication first before you take off a 1. So 2 times 4 is 8, take away 1. So 8 take away 1 is 7. So that one would be 7. Okay, So now you've got your coordinates, -3, 1 and 7. So what I'm going to try and do, so please pause the video at any point if you want to write all this down if you haven't done it yet. Do that. And then I'm just going to clear the screen quickly just so I can move down to pop in the actual coordinates on the grid. All right. Right, so hopefully now you've written all that down and you've got your own coordinates. So I'm going to try and be able to fit this on here. I can adjust. So our coordinate grid, which you can't see now, so I'm really hoping you've written it all down and you've got your notes because you've had to work it out anyway. And I'll also put the link to this booklet up so you can actually download it yourselves. Your coordinates were, I will write them again here because I'm nice like that. We've got -1, 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, those are our x coordinates. And our y coordinates were -3, -1, 1, 3, 5 and 7. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do is, you can't see that because I'm in the way. Alright, I'm going to plot each of these. So this is your x and this is your y. So you've got -1 and -3. So what we'll do is we'll go to -1 on our grid. And remember, we go across first and then up or down. So we go across here to -1 and down here to -3. -2 is there and -4 is there, so we know -3 is here. Okay, -1, -3. So that would be our first point just there. Okay, our second coordinates were 0, -1. So we'll go across to 0, down to -1. So that will be our second point. Then our third one is 1, 1. So we'll go across to 1, and this time up to 1. It's not -1, it's +1, so it goes there. Then you've got 2, 3. So we'll go across to 2 and up to 3. 3, 5, across to 3 and up to 5, which is there. And then 4, 7. 4 and then 7, it's just there. Okay. And as you can see, that's a nice straight line, and it will be a straight line because your actual equation was y equals 2x minus 1. So because your equation is a linear equation, it's not an x squared equation or an x cubed equation, it's a nice linear equation, you will end up with a straight line. If you had a graph that was like x squared, you would end up with a curve, and if you had an x cubed, you'd end up with a nice like another curve. Okay, so you must make sure that if you end up with something that's not straight and your equation is just a number here and an x, you've made a mistake. Okay, and then what you would do is, I don't have a ruler on this, I don't think, but you would then attach your points together much better than I have there with a ruler. Okay, lovely. All right, let's move on. So it says here on the grid, draw the graph. So you'd get marks for doing these, for filling in this grid, and then you'd get 2 more marks just for drawing that straight line. All right, and it's not that difficult. So again, there is another video on this that I've made that is directly about plotting graphs. So please go back and check that out if you need to. Okay, so this next question is asking for an estimation. So a lot of people try and work out these types of questions as they look. So try and do 31 times 4.92 divided by 0.21. So instead, what they want you to do is estimate. So just be very careful that you pay attention to the question. So in this case, what you need to do is round them to one significant figure, or it's probably best to think about it as like, I'd say the nearest whole number, but it's not really the nearest whole number. You'll see what I mean in a second. So 31, okay, that's closest to 30. All right, we don't want 31. We want a nice, easy number to estimate with. 4.92 is closer to 5. And then 0.21, we can't round it to 1 and we can't round it to 0 because it's only 0.2. So only 0.21. So 1 is too far away and we can't do nothing because that wouldn't give us a very accurate answer. So instead, rounding that to one significant figure would be 0.2. Again, if you're not sure on significant figures, you need to go and watch the video on that. So you've got 30 times 5 and then you're going to divide it by 0.2. Okay? So let's do 30 times 5. So 3 times 5 is 15, but because 30 has a 0 in it, it's 150. And then we're going to divide that by 0.2. Okay? So when you're dividing by a decimal, you could divide by 2, but then you need to realise that when you're dividing by a number that's smaller than 1, which 0.2 is, your number will be larger. So I could divide by 2, okay? So if I did divide by 2, 150 divided by 2, half is 75, okay? But because this number is smaller than the actual number with, because 0.2 is smaller than 1, okay, we actually have to make our number larger, so we add a 0 on the end, okay? We effectively move our decimal point one place over this way, all right? So you can actually fit way more 0.2s into 150 than you can 2, okay? So our answer is 750, all right? These are some nice expansion questions. Expansion, factorise, and then listing some values. So pause the video and have a go, and then press play for the answers. Okay, so the first one you've got y, and then open brackets, 2y minus 3, close brackets, and it wants you to expand. So I'm just going to write down the equation again, just so it's a bit larger. And we want to multiply y by 2y. That's how we expand. We want to multiply everything on the outside by everything on the inside. So y multiplied by 2y. That's like saying 2 times y times y. Okay? Because you've already got 2 times y here, and you're multiplying it by this y again. So 2 times y, well, that's fine. We can have the 2. And then this y times y, there's 2 y's being multiplied together, so we can write it as y squared and leave out any of the actual times in signs. So our first bit is 2y squared. Okay, when you've got 2 letters being multiplied together and they're the same letter, you can just write down one of the letters and put a little 2 to say that there were 2 of them being multiplied. Okay, and then you're going to do y times minus 3. Okay, now sometimes might be trickier depending on if there's any more minuses, but in this one you're just doing y times minus 3, so I can just put minus 3y, alright, because you're technically doing this minus 3 times y, and that's what that looks like. We just miss out the y, the times. Okay, now on this next one you're being asked to factorise, and again go back and look at the other videos on expanding and factorising if this is something that you want to revise further. But when we factorise, what we're saying is we're going to decide what is similar in both sides of the equation. So what is similar on either side of that middle sign, that middle symbol. So we've got a subtraction in there. So either side of that subtraction, what is in both of those? Well, I know I've got x here and I know I've got x here. This x squared is actually x times x. And then this 4x is actually 4 times x, isn't it? That's what that means. So you've got x squared minus 4x. And when we factorise, we can take out one of those. So if I've got 2 x's on one side, I've got x squared, and I've only got 1 x on the other side. I've got 4 times x. Okay, so I can only take out one of those. I can't take out 2x or x squared, because even though this has x squared, this does not. This has 4x. Okay? So what I'm going to say is I'm going to take out an x. Alright? I'm going to put my subtraction back in the middle, and I'm going to put some brackets in there because I'm technically going to turn it into an expansion expression. Alright? So if I've taken out one of the x's, that means that one of those x's disappears, and so does one of those. Alright? So because I've taken one out, I can take one out from both sides. I'm only going to write one of them down outside here. and I'll show you why in a second. So that means on this side, I'm left with an x on its own, and on this side, I'm left with 4, okay? Because I've taken an x from both sides. And that would be your answer. So I'm going to write that down. Okay, you've factorised the expression. And the reason that is how it is because if I were to expand that again, I want to make sure that I get back to my original equation just here. So let's expand it and check. So you've got x times x, which is x squared, and you've got x times minus 4, which is minus 4x. And yes, look, it's exactly the same as the one that we were given in the question. So we know that our thing is correct, our factorisation is correct. Okay, now question 6c is saying that k is an integer such that minus 1 is less than or equal to k, but it's less than 3. And all that means is you've got this number and it's between minus 1 and 3. So you've got minus 1, 0, 1, 2 and 3. However, you've just got to be careful of these symbols. So the first one is less than or equal to, which means that it could be minus 1, all right, but it cannot be minus 2, minus 3, all right, because, well, for a start, minus 1 is our first number. But it says less than 3, okay? It cannot include 3. So even though it's between minus 1 and 3, it can't include 3. So it could be minus 1, 0, 1, or 2, but it cannot include 3, all right? So again, if you're not sure on those symbols, you need to go and look at the video on those. All right, it's called Inequalities, and you'll be able to get quite a few questions like this to have a further practice. All right. Okay, so question 7, another factorisation question, and another expansion question. So have a go at those. Okay, again, the factorisation, we have x squared, which means x times x, and we have 5x, which means 5 times x. We have got x's in one side and then only 1x in the other side. So we can only take out 1 from each side. So I'm going to put my x and I'm going to put my brackets in and I'm going to put my subtraction in the middle because that's what's here. And technically I've taken out that x there, so I'm only left with an x here. And I've taken out that x there, so I'm left with a 5. All right. The expansion question, you have 3 and then 5x minus 2 in brackets. 3 times 5x, well, 3 times 5 is 15, so that'll be 15x. And then 3 times minus 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so 3 times minus 2 will be minus 6. And that is it. All right, nice and easy them ones. You should be able to get the marks really quickly for them, okay? All right, question 8. On question 8, it says that a hotel has 56 guests. 35 of the guests are male. It wants you to work out 35 out of 56 as a percentage. Now, this is a fairly tricky one, I thought, because they're expecting you to have remembered something that you probably haven't come across again for a while. So 35 out of 56 as a percentage. So let's write it as a fraction first, 35 out of 56. And then what I want you to do is pause the video and think about how to cancel that down. What number goes into both 35 and 56? Okay, so write down some times tables and have a go. Okay, well, I know that 35 and 56 are both in the 7 times table. 35 divided by 7 is 5, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. So as a fraction in your simplest form, it's 5/8. Now, the reason I feel like this is a little bit harsh is because, one, it's on a non-calculator paper, and secondly, you've got to remember that 1/8 is 12.5%. So if 1/8 is 12.5%, they want 5 of them. So you need to do 12.5 times 5. Again, non-calculator paper, so you might have to do this using a long multiplication method of your choice, or you can just do 12 times 5 and then 0.5 times 5 and add them together. Okay? If you were going to do it that way, 12 times 5 is 60, and then 0.5 times 5 is 2.5. So altogether you'd have 62.5%. Okay. Now, again, it's on a non-calculator paper and you are expected to know this percentage. Alright, I know you might not have visited it for a long time, but there is an extra video on that, and I think I even went over it in last week's video. So yes, the answer is 62.5%. If it was on a calculator paper, what you could do if you had a calculator and you were allowed to use it, instead you would do 35 divided by 56 on your calculator, because that line in the middle there means divide, and it would give you 0.625. Well, if that's the decimal version, then we would just move our decimal point 2 places to give you 62.5 as the percentage version. Okay? Right. Now then, it says here that 40% of the 35 male guests wear glasses. Write the number of male guests who wear glasses as a fraction of 56 guests and give your answer in its simplest form. So the first thing you need to do is work out 40% of 35. Right, so if you'd like to pause the video and have a go at that question, do so now, and then press play and I'll go through the rest. Alright, so 40%, not too bad, not too harsh a question. Okay, so 10% will be 3.5. Okay, because to find 10% we just go back one space and we'll put a point in there. So that means that 20% would be double that, which is 7. Okay, and then 40% would be double that again, because 40 is 2 lots of 20, okay, which is 14. So that's 14 guests. So we've already got the 40%, that's 14, and it wants it as a fraction of 56. Okay, it says there. So 14 out of 56. Now we've already realised that 7s go into 56 because we did it on question A. And we also know that 7s go into 14 because we've already worked out 20%, which was 7, and you should know that 2 7s are 14 anyway. So we can divide by 7 to make this our simplest form. 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. But we can still divide one more time to make that even smaller, because we can divide by 2 now. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So our fraction in its simplest form is 1/4. Okay? Right. Lots of number work going on as well as these algebra questions. Okay, let's do a couple more. If I don't finish the entire booklet, that's fine, because I'll put the link up for you to download it, and you can, if I can do that, I don't even know if I can do that on YouTube. If not, I can put it up somewhere so you can find it. And you can have a go at the rest of the questions, alright? So, let's do 2 more, 9 and 10, and then you can finish the booklet yourselves. Question 9. So you've got 3 simplified questions here. 2 of them are 1 mark and 1 of them is 2 marks. So pause the video and have a go, and then press play for the answers. Okay, question A. 8x minus 4x. So easy. Making it too easy for you. 8 take away 4 is 4, so we're just left with 4x. Y times y times y. Well, if you have y times y, that's y squared. So y times y times y, there are 3 of them, must be y cubed. And then the last one is simplifying 4 different sorry, I'm not ready for that. C is simplifying 4 different pieces of an expression, okay, 4 different terms, thank you, terms, in an expression. You've got 4x there, and you've got minus 2x there. I'll just draw that again, minus 2x. You've then got 3y there and 5y there. So you've got 4x, take away 2x, that leaves me with 2x. Then you've got 3y plus 5y, so both positive numbers. So 5 plus 3 is 8, and it's positive, so it'll be plus 8y. So your final answer is 2x plus 8y. I'm sure you got all those right. If not, there is a video on simplifying expressions as well on my channel. Alright, last question then, before I let you go and finish off by yourselves. I'm sure you're getting fed up of hearing my voice. How many? Yeah. So question 10. The two-way table gives some information about how 100 children travelled to school one day. Complete the two-way table. Okay. Pause the video, complete the table, and then you can have a go at questions A and B, and we'll just scroll down for C. Okay. All right. So if you have had a go at that, obviously the first one you've got 15 plus 14, and then we're trying to figure out what's in car. Okay, so 15 plus 14 is 29. So you're left with 25 here. Okay, let's just double check. So 20, 30, 40, 54. Yeah. Okay, so just double checking that my addition was correct. Then we know I've got 100 here. Alright, so I need to fill this bit in now. So 54 plus what makes 100? Okay, that's 46. Okay, and then I know that I've got total 46 there, so I've got 24 there. Okay, so to get up to 46, I need another 22. So that will go there. And then you're just going to add these together. So I'm just double checking, 20, 38, 46, yeah. And then here you've got 25 plus 8, so 33. And then 14 plus 16 is 30. Alright, so hopefully you've got all them right, and you've completed the two-way table. It says, one of the children is picked at random. Write down the probability that this child walked to school that day. So, walk to school. So, walk to school. Here's walk. So, 37 children walked to school. Okay. It doesn't say boy or girl. It just wants to know how many walked. So, 37 walked out of 100. So, that's the probability. All right. Now, if I added up these two quickly, I apologise for that. I just figured that you'd already done that correctly. Usually most people do get the two-way table bit right. Obviously, we've been given all the information we needed for the top row, apart from car. So if the total was 54, I just took 14 and 15 away from 54 to get 25. I didn't have this piece of information here, so I worked out 100 take away 54 to give me 46. And then I added these two together and took it away from 46 to give me 22. And then finally I just added these two together to give me these last two numbers. All right. Now then, the last question is, one of the girls picked at random. What's the probability that she did not walk to school that day? Okay. So one of the girls was picked at random. All right, so here's the girls. We've got 46 girls. Okay, so here it says girl, you've got walk, car, other, total. So there are 46 girls altogether. The probability that she did not walk to school, so you need the car and the other, so 8 add 16 is 24. Okay, so that'd be 24 out of a total of 46 girls, because you want only the girls. It's only asking you for the girls in that question. Okay, so 24 out of 46. Let me just go down to that last question so you can see. Alright, the probability that she did not walk to school was 24 out of a total of 46. We can cancel that down a little bit. Let me just write it over here. Okay, so we can half that. We can divide by 2. Giving me 12 over 23. Okay, and we can't go down any further because 23 is a prime. So it'll be 12 over 23. Alright, all done. Okay, so we've done 10 questions out of 15, so there are 5 left for you to have a go at on your own, and I promise I will put up the answers. I've got to do the ones from last week as well, so I'll get them done. Okay? Alright, thank you very much for watching. Please leave me some comments. I do have a feeling I went through that pretty quickly. So I do apologise, and if there's anything that you're not sure on, let me know and I will try and go through it again in the best way I can. Alright, thank you very much and I'll see you next time.